So I'm going to just do a quick overview of where we started as divine families and where we are today. Okay. So here we are as divine families who had the right to choose an idea to play around with. In that place of source, it's energy, it's numbers, it's colors, it's harmonics, it's songs. I mean, what we don't know what it is, but it's not formed in any way we would call formed. And so possibilities, all possibilities exist there. And as ideas floated through, there were 7 different groups that at various times, not all at the same time, coalesced around an idea. So the idea of joy, the idea of peace, the idea of, I'm going to get this up here. We've seen this before, but it's always good to have this. So here we are in all possibilities of good up here, unformed, and ideas, emotional balance, curiosity, a clarity, joy, inner knowing, etc. So it's not that those qualities are what we chose. It's we chose a range of frequencies. So it'd be more like a range of color. Within the color are numbers, and then as it gets more solid and gets slower, then it becomes experiences and qualities and situations. But there it's just, how do we dance? We're dancing different dances, we're singing different songs. And we were very probably naive in that as we started on this journey, and we each group was in the first world away from home, and they experienced and they extended, let's try it a little bit longer, a little bit further. And here in the third world, with the energy, the curiosity family, which is the densest, this is where, because of some broadcasting from outsider parasitic families, some ideas that were broadcast in here to deceive, to be able to weaken the boundaries, the broadcasting that says, well, you're grown-ups, why don't you let go of home source and see what it's like just to be on your own, which created chaos and imbalance, created the duality that we call duality, wholeness and imbalance, which we now call love and fear. That was created because we inserted a chip. We just put a little software program in, and every once in a while, the cherries would line up and we would be in chaos. And then the cherries would line up and we'd be at balance, back and forth, back and forth. And it was automatic. It wasn't because we every moment had to choose. It was because it was in the program. And then the 13th group that was going to hold space so that they could surround those individual family groups. And while they undid the chip, they redid the formula correctly. The next broadcasting from the outsiders was, you're not enough. You're not strong enough. You're not old enough. You haven't been here long enough. Let us come in and we'll help you. And so that whole broadcasting was for the outsiders, a way for them to get in through our boundaries. And now they're in the boundaries, they've anchored in our boundaries, and now they start acting out their agenda, which is to control, to use, to dominate. And they'll do that in any way they can, causing conflict, causing violence, causing battles, whispering, you're not enough again, So our vibrations begin to fall or slow down. In the Hermetic tradition, it's what is it called? Anyway, it's slowing down the energy. The Hermetics in mystery school said it the same way. Our energies begin to slow down, because we were being sucked dry by the parasitics' agendas. And we tried many, many, many ways, had various plans to try and get rid of them, to slow it down, to make us be less juicy, etc. And all of those injuries were major, 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 major cause, especially that third world, of why we on the earth plane kept cycling in pain. We could never be free of the pain because there was the chip, and then there was the presence of the outsiders. So it was in the seventh world where we were, I mean, it's like life or death. We've got to find a different way, a new plan. And that's where the earth plan came into play that says, okay, we've got to have a way to identify energies that are outsiders. We have to have a way to be a voice of authority to have them removed. And then we've got to have a way to make those changes very quickly. Mass consciousness, group mind is what these are, all group mind worlds. And so consensus is the way we went, and it takes a long time. So how do we do it quickly? Because we didn't have time. Therefore, Earth mission. And the purpose of the Earth mission was to identify outsider vibrations at every level, and with a voice of authority, call for our divine family members to move them out of our space back to their home. Clear them out, clear them out, clear them out, so that what remains is sovereignty. Yes, there still are injuries, there still are trauma, there's still those things that will need to be healed, but the presence of the outsiders don't keep stirring the pot, you see. So the Earth mission was to get rid of the outsiders and then heal. That's the plan to which the tag system is plugged. That's where the tag systems comes out of that whole big plan, and how to restore ourselves, those of us in human bodysuits, to our original mission, our original power, our original voice of authority really was a big one, and heart of the male, so that we could get rid of the outsiders and live in wholeness. So here we are. For most of our time on this planet, we've lived in survival mode. I was in a circle the other day, I probably Monday, I don't know, and I maybe it was you, Audrey. Somebody brought up, what about the chakras? Did we bring it? Was that brought up in this class? Because aren't the chakras keeping us disconnected? Audrey, I think
Yeah, that was me last week. Yeah.
Was it in this class?
Yes.
Because sometimes I'm in circles with you guys in different places.
Yes.
And indeed, the bodysuit was crippled. Indeed, the wire was crippled. Indeed, those are survival chakras, and we had to live with them until now, but we don't have to live with them any longer. So we're in an amazing place as an opportunity to set outcomes, to hold the vision, to be in connection with teams that we have powers and abilities opened up again to us in ways that we haven't had for generations and generations and generations. So we're going to talk, so the purpose, the team's purpose, when I talk about tag, it isn't just to help people make their relationships better or finances better. That's not the total purpose. The purpose is like, that might be what drives a client to you, because they're upset, they don't know what to do, and it's situations that will bring them to you. And you definitely will have the ability to tune in and help that situation, neutralize the situation, and heal some patterns. But you're also going to be making sure that their energy fields are cleaned a lot deeper than they even know need to be cleaned. So whatever a client brings to you is the tip of the iceberg of what you would be able to do in behalf of them without, and it's not that everybody has to know it all. know it. You know, they have their work to do. And if we can help them continue their work of good, moving down that track at 200 miles an hour, and they don't get stopped every week, every month, hey, that's what we do. What's important, one of the things that's important where we're going to start is your presence. What you are as a vibrational presence. And so the reality statement for you to think about is, what is it? What is the presence you want to be? Or how do you want people to feel when they are around you? So it might be, and it can change. I am a presence of calm. I am a presence of respect. I am a presence of kindness. I am a presence of inspiration. And whatever it is that you have determined for yourself, that's what you want to bring to this place we call a healing session, then it's your responsibility to know when you are off kilter. And to be in integrity to what you claim means that you have to also say, well, wait a minute, I'm feeling really heavy, and that isn't fitting with inspiration, and have a tool to address the the heaviness, you see. So I am a presence of, and just write something down in that regard. I had a friend many years ago who was an amazing man, used words so well. And he was on a college campus. And students loved to sit and just listen to him. And very inspirational. And he said, I do not want to be a guru. So he limited himself. That's how we've survived in the past. We've limited ourselves. So he kind of limited himself and kind of, made small impacts. So after I'd learned a little bit more, I said to him, you're the one who determines whether you're a guru or not. If you are a presence of compassion and inspiration and humility even, you're the one that will know if inside you start feeling, wow, I'm pretty smart, I'm pretty special. You'll feel anything that comes up contrary to that, and you can heal that and go back to being the inspiring person that you are. But he was afraid of that charisma. He was afraid of that inspiring. So he didn't take my advice. So I met him about 20 years later, about 2 years ago. He said, I thought by now I would have written some books. I might have been on the circuit talking, because that was the personality that he was. And he's not. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm spending a lot of time in the quiet, in meditation, just putting love out into the world. That's another way to do it, isn't it? So he chose, he whether he made a conscious choice or not, he chose to not be out in the world to make that kind of difference because he was afraid of guru-ness. But nevertheless, because of the nature who he was still doing it. He was just doing it in the silence of his own room. But you're the one who will know if you are out of kilter, if you're in fear and doubt, if you are in, look at me, how great I am. And that's important for you. No one will know that but you. Usually no one knows it. Sometimes we can sense it, but yet that's you. So when you're setting up your space, whether you're doing it long distance or personal in one-on-one, either way, it doesn't matter. You just set up a different size of space, really. You're doing long distance. Your space is also part of what do you want your space to be like, the beauty that's there, the items that are there. All of that is you are in charge of designing. You design the qualities that you stand and are. You design the space in which that will most work. And then you keep that, you refresh it, you refresh that. Just like stones need to be cleaned, crystals need to be cleaned, your space needs to be cleaned too. We are energy workers. We understand energy exists and is powerful. And when you set an outcome, you are at the core. That's the core of whatever program is going to be drawn to your client or to you. Then massage becomes a complementary. Medical becomes a complementary. Food becomes a complementary. You see, you're holding the core, you're holding an outcome, you're using energy to clear what's in the way of it, and you're holding an outcome so that doors can open in what I call integrated way. So mental doors open, emotional doors open, physical doors open, and even Western medicine doors open. And they're all complementary to help your outcome manifest. Okay. So I had been, I'd probably been doing this energy work maybe a year or two when I started teaching classes. I didn't intend to, but I had friends that said, I want to know what you know. And in sharing some of the things I was learning, a fellow said to me, you need to read this book by Dr. Valerie Hunt, PhD. And it was called The Infinite Mind. And it will be in a handout for you. And it talks about her research and the research of her, they might have been students, I'm not sure what the name was she gave them, where they studied vibrations, vibrational waves, healing, etc. And there's a lot of good stories in there. But the one I'm going to tell you is this. And this was the book was I got it in the early 90s. So machines and technologies changed a lot. There's a lot more sensitive machines even than she had at the time. I don't think they had anything like Bluetooth. So it's probably had the wires had to be attached directly. So this one research they did is they studied people who did hands-on healing or energy work. And they would attach whatever they attached to the hands of the healers, and they would attach wires to the client who's on the table, so that they have different machines and they're watching what happens. So they're seeing the healer scan the body with their hands, and that's one way to scan the body, where you just move your hands through the auric field and wherever that is for you. And all of a sudden there's a spot that draws your attention. When in TAG we use a pendulum, you could also use your hands. And so here's a hot spot. In TAG, I call it a Pandora box. Here's a hot spot. And it definitely is an indication that there's something that's not balanced. So the healer stops and begins to just tune into what the body needs, just like we did with the crystals information about the chakras. So they could see by the machines that here's an energy flow coming to moving out of the client, out of the healer's hands. And they'd watch to see what impact the body had, what it had on the body itself. And what they noticed is when the energy from the hands, whatever that frequency was being measured, when the body started vibrating at the same frequency, the healer would move on to another spot. The healer didn't see all of that. So as they talked to those who were doing hands-on work, they would say, what did you do? Why did you do? Da, 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 da. Well, here I could feel this. I felt like that area, and they used color, needed more yellow. Okay. So I'm imagining and flowing yellow. And then when I felt like, okay, it's complete, all I knew it was complete, and I could disconnect and go somewhere else. But what the machine showed is as the energy vibration moving through the hands had its own unique song, if you will, its own unique frequency. And when the body was resonating at the same frequency, that's when the healer would move on. The ability for your presence, your frequency to impact. I mean, you see the same thing? So your presence is important because when you come into a space, holding your frequency, making sure that any chaos doesn't knock you off, holding the frequency, everything changes. And it was shown very clearly in the body. So there's a quote I'll have in your handout from Valerie Hunt talking about, what they noticed, what colors seem to work best for what kind of illnesses, just as an idea and as a place to be. So there's that intuitive communication, the inner knowing, they don't even know why you do it, and you keep moving on. And lo and behold, the machines showed what you did. So the ability to hold space is important. And so what I'm going to have us do is take some time here, and we're going to do a couple of hermetic exercises. And these exercises come from a book called by Franz Barden. He lived during the Nazi era in Germany. And before the Nazis did their thing, he already was in the hermetic tradition of the Egyptian mystery schools. And he was known as someone who did magic not through sleight of hand, but literally moved and changed things with his ability to hold with his mind. So he was approached by some of the advisors or cohorts of Hitler because he was well known. Franz Barden was well known, and they used black magic. So they approached him, came to his home, made an appointment, came to his home. And this was like probably in maybe the late 30s. It wasn't quite into the 40s yet. They weren't at war in the same way, but they were going that direction. And they asked him, Franz Barden, to get on board their council because he could do mental mind focus like none in their group could. So they wanted him to join using his ability for dark. So he listened to them, and then he said, if you don't mind, I'd like to take you through an exercise. They said, okay. And what he did, he basically put them into like I don't know if it was a trance state where they went into the future. He took them into the future so they could see what the impact of their behaviors and actions were going to be. And then he brought them back and he said, why would I want to be a part of this? I'm not. He ended up in a concentration camp. But in that whole process, he determined, because in the Hermetic tradition, mystery school traditions, it has been only a select few. You had to be invited in. A few people knew the laws. A few people knew the principles. A few people practiced so that they could do these things, alchemy and magic, because it's powerful in the wrong hands without a quality of character. We see what happened with the Nazi group. So he determined that because it was being used against people, the mind control was being used in Germany. He determined that the principles could no longer be secret. The masses had to know and had to understand and had to be able to practice. Otherwise, they were, as we see, sheep to the slaughter. So between being in a concentration camp, getting out, then being in prison before he died, he wrote this. He wrote several books, but the book in Initiation into Hermetics, he wrote, I think, the first 5 parts of the Hermetic past. So he never did write down the total process. He was never able to do that totality, but the beginning's really important. So he said we must always be aware of the fact that the body, soul, and mind are to be trained simultaneously. You know, what we do mentally, our body needs to be trained too. So, you know, so that he said, for otherwise it would be impossible to gain and then maintain that magic balance. So it has to be it's got to be a balanced working together of all of our bodies as we train. So this one is called the mental training, and it's observation and recall. So this is what you're going to do, and I'm going to time. So I will tell you what we're going to do. You're going to sit for about 1 minute, and you're just going to sit quietly, and you're going to observe whatever thought might come into your mind. Just observe it, and then move it off and see if there's another thought. You're just going to observe thoughts that move through your mind. You're not going to call them in. You're not going to push them out. You're just going to watch them arise and move, and arise and move for a minute. And then I'll stop after a minute and give you time to write down what that was. And then we're going to do it a second time. Okay, I think that's easy. So, ready? And if you want to turn off your cameras this time, you can, whatever comfortable to you. Okay, so now it begins. 1 minute, and then I'll tell you when to come back. Okay, stop. Take about 30 seconds. Just capture the experience for yourself. Okay, stop. And we're going to do it one more time for 1 moment. Just observe. Thoughts arise, move them off. Thought arise, move it off. Okay, come back and do 30 seconds to write down. Okay. And I'm going to have you do another short exercise, and all these exercises will be on your handout so you can practice them. The suggestion is that you get up to 10 minutes, holding a space for 10 minutes. That was 1 minute. Because what the ability to be the one rather than the wild horses of your mind taking charge, you're in charge. Here it is. So this one is called observation and recall. Well, no, I'm going to do subjugation of thought. I'm going to do subjugation of thought because when you're doing healing, and if there's something that you are asked to hold, whether it's a symbol or a number or a color, and you're asked to hold it in that neutral space, but holding it so that that vibration then is colors the energy that moves through you in for the client. This is a good one to practice for that. It's called subjugation of thought. So the purpose is to hold in your mind one thought. So you choose the thought. It might be a thought of love, it might be a color, whatever the thought is, and you're just going to hold your mind on that. And any thought that comes up, anything that comes up, you just push it aside, put it in a basket, whatever model you want to use. You're going to take the thought that comes up and you're going to put it aside, go back to what the thought you've chosen. And we're going to do that for 2 minutes, just to give you an experience of 2 minutes. So go. Okay, come back and just take 30 seconds to write down what that was like. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in rooms. There'll be two in a room. And I want you to take time for maybe 2 minutes each to share what that was like. Was there an aha? Oh, this is where I want to go. Or this is what I didn't know. This, what was that aha? What was it like for you? Just there in the room with your partner. You have a turn, she has a turn. And then after 6 minutes in the room, I'm going to send a message into the room that says to ask yourself a question to listen inside. And the question is going to be just, I'm connected to this bigger plan. That's what we're acknowledging. We're connected to a bigger plan. So the question to ask and listen for is, who will be my touch point or my guide in my tag work? Who will be my guide in the tag team or the tag work? And so I'm going to open the room, and then I will, after 6 minutes, I will put the question into the room. You'll see it flash kind of at the top. There's the questions in the chat. And then you're going to stop your conversation and you're going to answer the question. And then I'll bring you back, you'll have maybe a minute or two. Ask the question inside, listen, what do you get? It doesn't matter what you get, an answer and not answer, just follow through. And then I'll bring you back into our main room just before we close. So here we go into our rooms, and enjoy your time together. So how was that? Was it fun to be together? Well, we're going to start doing some of those things more regularly. So we're not going to bring it back into the main room. I'm just going to let you be with that. The handout will include the exercises, some questions, whatever you received, keep maybe create a time once or twice this week where you can touch in and even a half hour worth. There's definitely some opportunities that are going to be coming for you to practice with each other and with other people. And so getting some of these basics in mind, under your belt. Some have worked more and have a little bit more strength in those areas than others. I'm just assuming everybody's starting from scratch. So anything you want to say just as we're getting ready to close, just take out, unmute yourself and
Thank
otherwise,
you.
yeah, otherwise just
Yeah,
unmute
thank you.
yourself and cheer each other on.
Yeah,
And glad you're here.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you then next week. I'll send a link when this is all up for you. Okay.
And Jaylyn, happy
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah,
Thank
happy
you.
anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.